Hey, what's up? Mr. Myesis here, coming to you live from Myesis Math headquarters, kind of headquarters. So, hey, today we're talking about gathering data, and specifically two ways of gathering data: either an observational study or an experiment. So let's talk about MSG. All right, MSG. What is MSG? MSG is monosodium glutamate. So there's a lot of controversy over this. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Is it okay for you? Does it cause headaches? I don't know. But you know what we could do? We can make it our topic and gather some data on it. So why don't we do that? And I'm not going to go into whether it does or doesn't. You guys can look that up on the internet if you want. Just make sure you're using reliable resources, okay? Reliable sources on the internet. So let's talk about it. I'm just going to use that as kind of my context here. So let's talk about observational studies and experiments. The first thing we need to do when we gather data is we need to have a population of interest. So a population is the entire group that we're interested in knowing something about. So let's suppose that in my MSG study here, I'm interested in knowing if MSG gives headaches, okay? And I want to know if it gives headaches to people ages 18 to 45. That's my population of interest. Then what I'm going to do with that population, now that I know what population I'm thinking about, I'm going to select a sample of that so a piece of the entire population. And normally I'd like to get that randomly. So I'm going to go out and randomly select people 18 to 45. Now, if this was an experiment, I don't really necessarily need to have a random sample. I can have volunteers, but I do need to randomly place the treatments, and I'll get to that in just a second. So now that we know what our population of interest is, we've narrowed down our sample, and you got to make sure that your sample is representative of your population. So, for instance, if I sampled some people, and then it really doesn't I got to make sure that my sample, whatever conclusions I get, I can make that conclusion based on an entire population. So, for instance, if I had a random sample of students at my university that I teach at, which is Stanislaus State in Turlock, California, go Warriors. If I did a random sample of students there, then I really can only make my population the students at Stan State, right? It wouldn't make sense for me to make conclusions about a bigger population, because that's the only place that I can get that sample from. So we got to make sure that that sample is representative of the population that we're interested in. Okay. All right. So when we understand now, when we're gathering data, we understand what our population of interest is. Now we've got our sample ready. We're going to decide whether we're going to do an observational study or we're going to do an experiment. Now, there are really two types of observational studies that we can do. There is what we call retrospective. And so basically what I would do is I would go and find out I would just go and research other studies that have already been done on people that get headaches from MSG and gather those data. Okay, so something that's already been done for me. The other thing I could do is I can do what's called a prospective study, which means I actually gather data. So for myself, so what I could do is I would go to maybe a restaurant, and then as people come out, I would ask them, did the food have MSG? Do you have any side effects from MSG? And then I would just put it on a survey. So I'm not really making them eat food with MSG or not MSG or whatever. I'm not actually giving them stuff. I'm just asking them what they think or what they've experienced, okay? So in this case, it's called a prospective observational study, in which I'm gathering the data from them. Most surveys are prospective studies. Now, for these, we cannot tie cause and effect, because we haven't done something really important, which was done a controlled randomized experiment. So in order to do cause and effect relationship, we need a controlled randomized experiment. So how does an experiment differ from an observational study? Well, an experiment, we have treatments. We actually make the people eat MSG, right? So here you go, here's some MSG. Some of you are like, yeah, that's good. All right, give me some MSG. Some of you are like, no, that gives me a headache. But we don't know until we actually give it to you. So we actually need to give them treatments. What I might want to do is, and so I have to figure out what the treatments are going to be. I'm going to randomly assign those treatments. So I'm going to flip a coin or do something so I can see what I'm going to give to people. I'm going to have what I call the explanatory, or what we call explanatory variable. It's what explains what's going on. And that's usually the factor. So that would be like the MSG. That would be the things that explains what we call the response variable, which is the response that we're getting, headaches, or maybe no headaches, no effects, okay? That would be the response variable. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we might even have levels. So let's suppose this is the case. I go, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna get a bunch of volunteers, and then I'm gonna put them in groups, 3 groups. We'll do 3 groups, 1, 2, 3. All right, you gotta make the noise, by the way, because that's important for any study, right? So my first group is gonna get no MSG. They're gonna get food with no MSG. You know what though? I'm not gonna tell them that. I'm just gonna tell them, here's your food, okay? If I wanted to see what we call the placebo effect, I might tell them that their food has MSG in it, even though it doesn't, to see if they get headaches just because they think they have it. So that was what we call the placebo effect. More to come on that in another video. But maybe I have one group that has no MSG in their food. The second group has a low dose of MSG in their food. I don't know, I don't know what grams that would be, but that'd be small. And then another one that has regular, that would mostly come in food. So a higher dose of MSG. So I have 3 groups. Those are called levels. And then what I would do is I would randomly select which group gets which treatment. So I would maybe I don't know, put A, B, and C, and then I would, shake it in a hat, pull out, oh, this is group C. They would get level nothing. They would get level 2. So I find out, I don't have to randomly place them in the groups. I just have to make sure that whoever gets it gets randomly selected from the treatment that I want. Now, this type of study, randomized controlled experiment, we can use to imply a cause and effect relationship. That's why it's so important to use. And that's why we do experiments all the time in medical studies and vaccines. I'm using medical twice, but stuff like this, we do a lot of experiments to see if things actually work, because we want a cause and effect relationship. So just to summarize, it's all about the treatments. All right, you have to make people do something if you want it to be an experiment. All right, you always need to explain what the treatment is in a context. Remember, statistics is about context. So really explain why something is an experiment. You have to explain what that treatment is. Now, when you gather data, if you're in my class and you're gathering data, it's likely we're not going to be doing too many experiments. Okay, there's some technical things we got to worry about. Ethics and stuff about having people participate in a treatment study. So we unlikely will do treatments in my class if you're taking my statistics class. But if we're doing general statistics, we'll likely do some observational studies. More likely than not, or absolutely, we're going to be doing some surveys. So to gather data, we want to gather data with surveys. We'd like it to be random, but if we can't, it's the best we can do in our situation that we have. But I really wanted you to understand a couple things from this video. One, what a population was, what a sample was, and how do we gather data in a retrospective or a prospective study. We're going to be doing prospective studies in this course a lot. So gathering data, understanding the difference between observational and an experiment. That is it. Good luck. May the statistics force be with you. My ass is out. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the like button. Later. Bye.